If needed, would you consider defending Canada from invasion? Is that a reality that you have thought about?
That's actually a question that I struggle with even today. And one of the things that I'm most worried about is if Canada does go to war, they are not ready, and a lot of people are going to die to learn some hard lessons.
In general, what do you think are like hard truths Ukrainian supporters need to hear but maybe don't want to hear?
Hard truths. The hard truth is that Russia is...
Well, first of all, thanks for coming to our rather cold studio, but I'm guessing you've dealt with worse.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
My first question is just, before coming here and serving, before the training, what was your first memorable contact with Ukraine?
I mean, I guess the first memorable contact was the first actual contact with Ukrainian soldiers. It was when I was in Poland on Operation Unifier with Canada, and we had just arrived, and we had just met the students we were going to be training. And the Canadian military uniform, it's green. It used to be, they've switched it since, but it used to be very, very forest green, very similar in color to the Russian uniform. So these Ukrainian students came in and they saw our group, our Canadian group, in a uniform that was very similar to Russia. And they gave us the dirtiest looks at first. That was a really bad first impression for them. I mean, they afterwards realized, oh, it's just Canada, okay, yeah. It's normal. But that first reaction I'll always remember for sure.
And so let's take a step back. Give us the short version of your story. How did you end up here?
So after... I was on Op Unifier. I trained 2 companies of Ukrainian tankers on the Leopard 2 and returned to Canada, returned to our indefinite training cycle. And I became kind of unsatisfied with what I was doing in Canada because it all felt kind of meaningless. Like we just trained. There's no war there. It started to feel like there was no purpose for the training that we were doing. And meanwhile, there's a war happening and I have skills and knowledge that can be useful there. So I thought about it for a long time, and then I finally made the decision to break contract with the Canadian military and come out to Ukraine and use the skills and the knowledge the military skills that I have in actual war and doing my best to be helpful here.
Did anyone try to talk you out of it? What were those discussions like?
Surprisingly, only one. All of my friends in Canada are military as well, so they all fully understand. Some of them were a little jealous because they also, they want to come out here and fight, but they have other reasons to keep them home, maybe family, maybe, whatever. I don't judge if anyone has a reason not to come, obviously. But only one guy said to me that it's a stupid idea and I'm going to die. So surprisingly, only one.
What did you say to him?
I just said, if I die, I die. It's kind of like, I didn't really know what to say. My decision was already made, and his opinion wasn't going to sway me at all. It's just, maybe I will die. It's a genuine, very real risk when you go to war, but everyone knows that, and I knew that, and I don't know. He was a soldier too, so I don't really understand why he reacted that way, but...
Well, you went forward. And then, so you went from training to serving. What was the toughest part of that adjustment?
It wasn't even... I didn't feel much of an adjustment. I remember my first deployment to war, my first day fighting, was actually absolutely excellent. I destroyed a train station with a tank, and, first day of war, it was excellent. And yeah, I never really felt an adjustment. In fact, being at war, not mentally, but physically, is a lot easier than the training that the Canadian Army puts us through. So I can say that the Canadian Army absolutely prepared me very, very well for war, even better than the Ukrainian Army training would have. I guess because of that, because of the absolute high level of training in Canada, I was already prepared and there wasn't much of an adjustment. I've been in the same brigade, same battalion since I signed the contract.
And it's Ukrainian speaking?
Yeah.
What about that part of it?
So I'm the only foreigner in my entire battalion, and nobody in the battalion speaks English at all. So obviously I had to learn Ukrainian. I work every day in Ukrainian. I can go weeks without speaking a word of English. So it's definitely a very, very fast way to learn a language, for sure.
I'm a little jealous, to be honest. I want to talk about the language for a second. What has it been like learning it for you?
Yeah, so my first motivation for learning Ukrainian was to serve in a tank here. because at the time no foreigners were in tanks, because language was a requirement, obviously. And me being a tanker in Canada, I really wanted to take the skills that I have as a tanker and serve in a tank here. So I reached out to a few brigades. They all said no, partly language and also partly because I'm a woman, of course. That's a different situation altogether. But language was a big factor. So I studied Ukrainian, and finally 25th Brigade gave me a chance to sign a contract as a tanker. And in the beginning, my language skills were still pretty low, but they were good enough to follow commands in a tank. I just studied the commands, and once I heard the command, I knew the action to do upon hearing that, and I was able to fight in the tank. And of course, being completely immersed in the language, my skills improved every day, every week, and now I would say I still make a lot of mistakes grammatically when I speak, but I'm absolutely conversational and I can work freely in Ukrainian. And the biggest challenge is when people speak either Russian or heavily Russian Surgic. For me, I don't understand Russian. I still don't understand Russian, maybe 20% because some words are similar. But a lot of people don't seem to understand the concept that I don't understand Russian, and they still speak to me in Russian, and I don't understand. But as long as someone can speak clean Ukrainian with me, I understand them very, very well.
I read at one point you were considering pursuing Ukrainian citizenship. So I imagine the language has taken on a whole new level, a whole new dimension.
Yeah.
Tell me about like that decision and that path.
I always played with the idea of getting Ukrainian citizenship, but I didn't want to give up my Canadian citizenship. And then finally, Zelensky passed a law that foreigners can keep their original citizenship and basically be dual citizens here as well. So that solidified my decision. Well, as long as I can keep my Canadian, 100% I'll get Ukrainian citizenship as well. So yeah, part of the requirement for that is language skill. And another requirement is history, which I definitely have not studied at all. I mean, even in Canada, I've never been super interested in history. For me, it's completely boring, honestly. But so that's going to be something I'll have to study at some point. But for sure, the language skill is a big one.
If needed, would you consider defending Canada from invasion? Is that a reality that you have thought about?
That's actually a question that I struggle with even today. If Canada goes to war, do I go back there and fight for Canada, or do I stay here? And I even today, I don't have an answer for it yet, but it's definitely a struggle within me. And one of the things that I'm most worried about is that Canada isn't really on the ball about the latest updates of war, namely drones. Canada, from what I understand, is not on the ball about drones at all. And I feel like if Canada does go to war, they are not ready, and a lot of people are going to die to learn some hard lessons that could be learned just from looking here and learning from the people who are fighting here. So that's a challenge as well, going back to an army that's not prepared, or maybe waiting a little while and then joining into Canada's war a little bit later after some lessons are learned. It's a struggle within, for sure.
You mentioned that when you were first applying, it was hard to get in as a tanker because you're a woman. What has it been like for you as a woman in the Ukrainian versus the Canadian military? You know, the good, the bad. What's it like?
Being a woman in the military here has been a huge culture shock, probably the biggest culture shock of all. But because in the Canadian military, women are held to the same standard as men, the same fitness standard, the same standard of work. Nobody's going to carry your rucksack for you because you're a woman. But here in Ukraine, they almost don't want to let you carry your own rucksack because you're a woman. To me, it's insane. It blows my mind. I'm really, really stubborn, and I basically tell them, no, I'm going to do my own work. I'm going to carry my own stuff. I guess I kind of expected the resistance to me being a woman in a tank, because I did know about the culture, the men's and women's roles kind of culture before I came here, but experiencing it and knowing about it were definitely two different things. During basic training here, most notably, I remember the first couple of weeks, they almost didn't want to give me a shovel to dig a trench with everyone else. We'd all get shovels and they'd take my shovel away. Like the other students, I mean, they'd take my shovel and they'd tell me, go rest, go sit. And I had to fight them for the shovel and start digging. Eventually there came a time after a week or two where one of the other boys was getting punished for something. I don't remember what, some small thing, I guess. And he just had to do 10 push-ups, and it was in full armor, so a lot of extra weight. And he couldn't manage 10 push-ups. I think he managed 6 or 7. And then after that, the instructor said, who's going to finish off his push-ups? And I volunteered, and I got down and I did 10 push-ups in armor. So, you know, a girl who can do more push-ups than a man, oh my God, right? So after that, they started to treat me more like a normal recruit, which was better for me. I prefer it that way.
So you proved yourself in a way.
Yeah.
I saw that you are partly indigenous. I was curious if that background influences how you see Ukraine's struggle in any sense.
I wouldn't say that it necessarily influences it, but there is a parallel with the colonization aspect. I guess that's really the only thing I can say is we have that struggle with colonization, and for me, Russia trying to essentially colonize Ukraine, it's a similar battle for me. So I guess it's close to me in that way.
You started off as a tanker. You go to FPV. Why?
Yeah, so the reason I I made the decision to switch from tanker to FPV pilot was because the war started to change. My first 6 months on contract, I was a tanker. And then in the last month or two of being a tanker, the tanks were going out a lot less. There was a lot less opportunities to go out to the front in the tank. And I started to get bored. And obviously the reason for that was because the drone threat was increasing exponentially. The war was changing. It was turning into more of a drone war than anything else, which is where we're at now. And I decided, because I got tired of sitting off the front and waiting. So I wanted more time on the front. And our battalion was standing up a drone platoon, essentially. So I made the decision to go and be a part of that. The option was FPV or reconnaissance. And for me, FPV is more exciting because I get to do the killing. I get to do the destroying rather than just observing. And for me, reconnaissance has never been an interest. Even in the Armored Corps in Canada, you have the option to be reconnaissance or tanker. And you, as an officer, you learn both. But I never had any interest in reconnaissance. I respect reconnaissance, absolutely. They do absolutely necessary work, but I don't want to do it. For me, it's just not interesting.
So people are, I think a lot of followers of the war become obsessed with drones and FPV in particular. For people that follow it, what do you think is their biggest misconception of what it's like to actually be an FPV pilot in Ukraine?
I think that people overestimate the effectiveness of FPVs. And not to say they aren't effective, they absolutely are, and they are devastating. But because of the videos that come out, obviously only the best hits are going to be published. So out of 100 drones, you might get one really good hit. People don't have a concept, I guess, of just how much failure, just how high the failure rate is with our drones. It could be, if we're flying radio, there are a lot of cases where we lose connection to the drone, either for the video or for the control of the drone, and it just kind of falls down. That happens often, or there's other problems. There's all kinds of technical problems. Plus, when you get to the target, there's also a lot of misses because the control can be very difficult, especially if you're trying to, for example, hit a person who's running. It can be difficult, honestly, because it's such a small target, and the drone is, you need a lot of practice to control an FPV drone. So a lot of pilots miss relatively often. But because of the videos that come out, it seems like they're super constantly successful.
Do you think that misunderstanding about what you see as people misunderstand the effectiveness of drones, does that affect how they misunderstand the war, perhaps?
I think yes, because a lot of people, just from the perspective of a tanker, there's an argument right now, tanks are obsolete because of drones. No, tanks are not obsolete because, in my opinion, tanks aren't obsolete because of drones. We just need to look into countermeasures, and tanks can work again.
Something that caught my eye when I was looking at your bio is that you specifically joined a Ukrainian unit. I talked to a lot of foreign volunteers, and they've either transferred into Ukrainian units or they're trying. Isn't often the case. Was that like a deliberate decision on your part to go with Ukrainian unit? And why do you think that larger tendency of foreigners wanting to be part of Ukrainian units exists?
In my case, I joined a Ukrainian unit because I was looking for a tank position, and there was no foreign tank units. So I didn't have a choice. It was the Ukrainian unit or foreign unit infantry. And now I don't have any interest. Well, in general, I don't have any interest in switching my battalion or my brigade because I'm happy where I am. I'm satisfied with my team and everything. But if ever there comes a day where I want to switch units, I would never join a foreign unit. And that's just because so many foreigners here are unreliable. I don't want to talk down about all foreigners because there's definitely a lot of really good ones, but I think that even all foreigners here understand that most foreigners suck a lot. So they're difficult to work with. They're very often flaky. They'll join a unit for a month or a couple months and then say, I don't like it here, and then just leave the team, and it's difficult. So,
like I said, that is an opinion shared by by many foreign soldiers.
Yeah.
So it's not you're not alone in thinking that as a foreigner. When you see people talking about like freezing the conflict or the ceasefire negotiations, what do you think that people don't understand about what that means on the ground, or like and how those negotiations and the back and forth is felt by people in your unit, by your comrades?
well, a ceasefire could be helpful for us to kind of regroup and resupply and everything, but it does the same for Russia's side. So in the end, there's not a whole lot of difference after that. In terms of ending the war, what people don't understand, they're saying, just end the war already, just end it. But it's not that simple, because if it's not ended with proper security guarantees, Russia's just going to attack again in a few years, and we'll be back where we are again, maybe even in a worse situation. So that's the main thing that people are not understanding, is that Russia will attack again if there's not something concrete to prevent that.
Turning more to like the personal side, the personal experience, there was a recent trend of soldiers sharing moments that sort of broke their hearts, that like had a big impact to them. I don't know if you saw that.
I did.
It can be hard to answer. It could be a difficult question, so only answer as you're comfortable. But when you saw those stories being shared, what moments came to mind for you?
There's an image that I'll always have in my head of my friend laying on the ground with no arms and one leg, and he's screaming for help, and nothing can be done. And he didn't make it through the night. That's an image that I'll always have in my head. So that's probably the moment that broke my heart the most so far.
How do you deal with loss?
You just carry on. In my case, actually, I've lost quite a few friends here, quite a few comrades, and every single time when it's happening in the moment, I don't really feel anything. I mean, I feel something, but like I carry on. And then after a few days, everything's kind of settled down, carrying on as normal. At that point, I cry. And I'm okay to cry. Even in front of people, I'm not ashamed to cry. And I take a day or two and I just cry. And from there, it helps. It's very cathartic. And then from there, I'm able to move on and carry on with the next task.
How important is volunteer support?
It's extremely important. We cannot work without volunteer support. NGOs, donations, volunteers, they supply us with vehicles, power stations, generators, Starlink, even just small things like those chemical heaters that you can put in your gloves and your sleeping bag. Everything helps us so much. We absolutely, we get positions destroyed constantly. That includes destruction of our power stations, generators. Those are expensive pieces of equipment. And volunteers often provide replacements and allow us to open another post and continue working. It's absolutely critical. We can't work without volunteers.
And then, that's one form of aid. There's also governmental aid. If you could talk to the lawmakers, be it in Canada or elsewhere, that are debating like these aid packages for Ukraine, what would you say to them?
Aid packages are absolutely so vital right now. We're holding Russia back, but they keep pushing, and we need every drop of resources we can get. And if Russia isn't stopped here in Ukraine, it's just going to carry on into Europe. So it's better to send whatever is possible to send right now that will help us hold back Russia, rather than wait for Russia to be at your own doorstep.
In general, what do you think are like hard truths or that Ukrainian supporters need to hear, but maybe don't want to hear?
Hard truths. The hard truth is that Russia is pushing, and we are, I don't want to say we're losing because we are holding, but we are pushing, we are being pushed back constantly. For example, our safe houses are continuously pushed back to the northwest. As the war creeps closer to us, the place where we live off rotation for rest, it needs to be a relatively safe place. So we're constantly being pushed further and further back. Our positions are being pushed further back. We had positions in Mirnograd and Pokrovsk not so long ago. So Russia's pushing continuously. It's slow, and a lot of people like to say, "Oh, they're the slowest army ever in the world." But on the ground, we feel it. They're pushing. They're pushing us back.
Do you allow yourself to imagine a future after the war?
I haven't even given it any thought. I have given it some thought. I do plan to stay here until the end of the war. That's my plan right now, as long as nothing changes. And after the war, the question is, do I return to Canada, join the Canadian Army again, or do I stay here with the Ukrainian military? Either way, I plan to be military for the rest of my career. I'm a career soldier for sure. But like I said, I do want to get Ukrainian citizenship, so this will 100% be my second home. The question is just, where do I live? Ukraine obviously is going to have a difficult path ahead even after the war, with rebuilding and coming back to being a normal nation again. That's also going to be difficult. Even just environmental cleanup, like the mines and the fiber optic cables that are covering areas of the front right now. That's going to be a whole project.
I want to talk about your unit, about your comrades. What do they mean to you, the people you serve with, and how would you describe them?
They're my family, for sure. My brothers, and I have one sister now too, so that's really nice. I would do anything for them. I would die for them. Everything that I do is for them as well as for Ukraine.
What surprised you most about Ukrainian soldiers?
Their willingness to do whatever it takes. So they have that kind of tenacity to just keep going.
If you want more interviews like this, with people actually serving in Ukraine's military on the front lines, please like the video and subscribe. These are tough weeks in Kyiv. Heat and electricity are often scarce. Your support helps keep us reporting and literally warm. Generators don't run for free. Please consider becoming a member of our community. The link is in the description below.